Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Ras. How you doing, boy?
Welcome. We had a big snowfall like 2 days ago. It was snow on the ground. It started accumulating and stuff. And I'm like, ugh. I hate to bring up weather, but that's the most happening thing here so far.
I mean, bringing up weather is a very Canadian thing to do anyways, right?
It is. But speaking of snow, so last night Mexico lost to Canada and they're playing in Edmonton and there's snow on the sides and stuff. So I can't remember his name. Kareem, I think he scored or Lorraine, whatever, something Arin. He scored and then they all celebrated and this one player literally jumped into the snow in part of his celebration. I'm like, man, that is so Canadian.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Canada's on top of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying table. So even if we do get, we technically get automatic qualification for 2026 because it's gonna be in Canada. At least we know it's not fully there will be some merit behind it because we might make it to the Qatar 2022. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have some big names in that squad, yo. Alphonso Davies for one, for sure.
Yeah, Jonathan David. There's a few Chelsea boys as well that kind of, or Chelsea loan players that kind of made it too, right?
Oh, did we send them on loan over there to Canada as well?
But yeah, I think it's a good squad. Hopefully by 2026 we have the proper mix between experience and right now they're just playing because they have no expectations. But in 2026 they'll have expectations. So I'm looking forward to that.
You saying the guy jumping into the Palace snow reminds me of one of the first few, I don't know if this is a Canadian game or whatever, but one of my, I believe, undergrad mates told me, there's this game called King of the Hill. So when they clean out, a car park or whatever, and you know how they shovel all the snow into one giant pile in the corner of the car park? Apparently,
yeah.
I don't know. Have you played this game before? Have you heard of it?
Maybe, I think so, but I feel like they might have also been trying to mess with you. Be like, go Sanji, go jump into the pile of snow.
That makes sense, because I was the only one that climbed the pile of snow.
So I think they might have been messing with you.
Oh, man. All right. Okay, before we continue, Russ, do you want to maybe plug us, remind listeners how they can share our podcast and engage with us?
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles @BanterB. On the Discord Draft PL channel, Banter Boys #6585, and on Reddit, u/Banter_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, and many more, all under the name of Banter Boys.
All right. So just to, I guess, give a quick breakdown of this episode. Again, spice is the change of life? Some changes the spice of life? Oh God, I'm terrible at sayings. But we're gonna do things a little differently this episode because we're a bit short on time and it was the international break, so we kind of don't want to be redundant with the information we shared from the last pod. So if you're here for the data dump and league catch-ups, you should probably listen to episode 68 because this is episode 69.
Nice.
So in the first half, what we're going to do is just go through some Twitter questions and messages that we got from the last pod that we didn't cover. Because, the game week is coming up this weekend. Take our halftime pint. And then second half, we're just going to do, discuss some trades and FA/waiver picks that we want to suggest to help you win your game week. So if you're new to this podcast, just FYI, we talk about everything Fantrax related and sometimes OFPL draft. But yeah, we ain't no FBL pod, man. Sorry to disappoint you.
Mostly Acham.
Yeah, mostly Acham. Ras, I want to talk a bit more about, just regular life, banter, that sort of stuff. How was your international break, man? What'd you get up to?
Oh, yeah, unfortunate news. I broke my thumb.
Is it, legit broken?
It's, legit broken. Not it's just the top bone of my thumb. So it's, even in terms of the thumb, it's even the most least impactful part, but still I still have kind of it wrapped up and stuff. I'm gonna go see some plastics dude at the hospital on Friday, and he's gonna tell me if I need a cast or not. But I have not been like I've still been playing sports.
Of
So,
course you have. All
you
for the
know.
love of football, man. You know?
Oh yeah, so playing football on Sundays and basketball, which is I guess more frightening on Mondays. But I was like, man, we had a back to back for basketball this past Monday, and I was like, man, like I'm not gonna give up on my team because there's only 3 subs, so there'd be a player short too.
What
but
a trooper.
I wasn't shooting or anything.
What a trooper.
I was just playing defense. But yeah, that was my international break.
I was wondering why you were wearing like a hand splint or a hand brace or whatever. I mean, just FYI, I've done a project on osteoarthritis for, what is it? For the base of thumb joint or whatever. So, I mean, if you need any sort of gizmo to kind of make sure that you're wearing your splint correctly, I can help you out with that,
Nah, it's not the base of the thumb, but like that. If it was base of thumb, I wouldn't be playing any sports.
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, this is stupid.
Okay, all right, cool. T20 World Cup, man. It sucks that you guys didn't make it to the final. Sorry about that. What's worse is that Australia won. God damn.
Yeah, I'm like, who likes Australia? I'm pretty sure Australians don't even like Australia, bro.
yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe
the stadium was like completely empty. Like when, like, how like if there's a big match coming, if like Pakistan or India were playing, like the stadium would have been packed. But this stadium was like empty, bro. Even in the stands, it was mostly Pakistani and Indians, not even like Australians or Kiwis.
Yeah, and the thing is like, for me, growing up, Australia was always like that villain team, They're like, they always win everything, man. They always dominate everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of their players are also like massive dicks. I mean, no offense to any of our Aussie listeners, but it's just the theme growing up, man. And the worst part yet is New Zealand can't seem to win anything these days. Like,
yeah.
Kane had such a good knock during that match as well. Did you watch any of it at all?
Nah, man. I was just following it. I was like, man, if Pakistan's not in it, my heart's not in it. So.
Oh, you know what? The most important thing is though, England didn't make it to the final, so I was happy about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, a few other new things before we get to the biz part of the pod. New appointment, man. I see Norwich has a new appointment.
Dean Smith.
Yeah, man's doing that little merry-go-round. How does it feel to see Stevie G back in the Prem?
I'm really excited for it because this is like is he actually any good, right? Because he was in the SPL and managing a 2-team league for essentially, like managing a team.
He was in the Bundesliga? What? Oh, sorry. No.
The SPL.
Yeah, no, you said 2 leagues.
2 league, yeah.
Or
that's a one league team.
Yeah, true. La Liga is better, but not now since Messi's left.
For like Dean Smith, I saw that this is the first time where the same manager will be managing 2 different teams against the same opponent. Because the last match he had for Villa was Southampton, and the first match that he has for Norwich is also Southampton.
Yeah.
That's a pretty fun fact.
Yeah. Fun facts all the time.
Dean Smith for the trivia.
Yeah. What about Antonio Conte at Spurs? I guess that's kind of a bit of old news. That happened before the international break.
Yeah.
You happy with that appointment change,
We'll see. It's lads, it's Spurs, Let's see.
Ooh, I feel like there's one other club that we're forgetting.
Eddie
Howe, bro. Yeah, at Bournemouth 2.0.
Yeah, man.
With Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, and Matt Ritchie.
Yeah.
I know, like, during his stint at Bournemouth, they conceded a lot of goals. But, I mean, they also did score lots of goals. And that's one thing Newcastle's been struggling for, goals, right? I don't expect he's going to fix them up defensively, but at least he might be able to get, better football out of them other than just lumping it up the field and just basically parking the bus and trying to clear it,
Yeah, exactly. One thing you could credit the Bournemouth team was their ability to go toe to toe with regardless of the opponent, right? Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, whoever, right? They went toe to toe. They didn't, even if that's one thing you could credit with them. And sometimes you remember that crazy 5-4 win against Liverpool or something, and that 4-4 draw against Arsenal where they came back from 2-3 goals down. That was just persistence, man. And let's see, he's right. You're right. Pairing up again with Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, and Matt Ritchie, so he knows kind of what to do to get the best out of them.
Yeah, and I do also remember, I think it was a 4-0 defeat versus Chelsea. I think I was playing pickup game or we were training for Sunday League or something like that. Looked at my phone. I was like, what the fuck's going on, man? I think that's when Sari was appointed or something like that. But yeah, I think now we can get into the biz part of the pod. I mean, also fair warning, I was up since 5 a.m. this morning, or up till 5 a.m. this morning, working on a submission, like the first real submission for this master's program that I'm doing. Yeah, so I'm like, zero preparedness, sort of. I have no idea what's going on in football. Maybe I've heard here and there, injuries coming through and whatnot, but you will probably be able to discuss that better when we get to the FA/waiver pick. So let's run through some questions, Ross.
Ay, 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 ay. Fantasy with the Banta Boys.
Yeah, so the first question we have is, it doesn't say who it's from.
Oh, it's the FBL Draft Boys. This is from Instagram that they message us, yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, yeah. So the FBL Draft Boys, their question is, what are you guys thinking about Burnley and Crystal Palace assets? Also, best trading techniques and strategies is always something I think draft players should be thinking about.
So they play OFPL Draft, and also these boys are from Australia. So I love how we chat on Australia, and now we're about to answer their question. No regrets, Burnley and Crystal Palace assets, boy. Crystal Palace is an interesting one. Again, I have to bite my tongue. Patrick Vieira is doing an amazing job over there. They're even tightening up defensively. So
yeah,
the likes of Guaita, the likes of Mitchell are decent assets to kind of pick up. As even for Fantrax, if we're looking at that as well. For Burnley, I mean, I know you've kind of listed one of these guys in the next section, Charlie Taylor. I feel like if and when Burnley can keep a clean sheet, I remember, I believe like Charlie Taylor could easily get 3 bonus in that game. And I mean, if you look at Fantrax, he has the ability to get like 16 to 17 points, right, in a match. But what about you? Any standouts?
Olise is like their super sub right now, right?
Yeah, but he needs to be a starter. He's too good to be coming on as a sub.
Yeah. So I feel like, but because of that, his ownership is like not fully there. So you might still be able to get him, and like he comes off and he plays pretty fantastic, tries to get them the goal or the assist or the goal contribution. So that's kind of one thing. For Burnley, yeah, Charlie Taylor's a good pick, but like they're just flirting with the relegation zone right now, man. Like, I know Sean Dyche is gonna like tighten things up, and that's what you kind of expect from him. But right now, they're playing pretty meh.
I mean, Cornet ain't playing meh. Cornet beastin', bro.
Yeah, Cornet beastin'. But I guess this is for OFPL, so yeah, Cornet you could still get, yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, Chris Wood, like we always say, he's good for 10 goals per season, right? And I don't think he's gotten too many for the season so far. I should probably check that. Let me check that real quick.
I think Burnley's recent, like, upcoming run of games is also not the worst either. It's actually pretty decent. Like, they're playing, like, I think Southampton and, like, Brentford and, like, Watford and stuff. So it's not that bad. Like, picking up these assets. Hopefully one of them can get a goal or assist here and there. So
yeah, so the upcoming fixtures for Burnley are Crystal Palace, Spurs, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham and Watford. And then after that, Aston Villa, Everton. And I mean, I know that's like 7 to 8 games in the future, but because of the packed Christmas fixture list, like they're going to come thick and fast sort of thing. So you might as well look at like the next 8 to 10 fixtures for that. And Chris Wood only has... Oh, no wonder. I was looking at the previous season. That makes so much sense. He only has 2 goals for the season. So he has 8 more to come, at least. At least, yeah. So the only other Crystal Palace player I can think of, though, and I don't know if this is like good for OFPL, but Eberechi Eze. I mean, I feel like we're gonna see him on like the other side of the new year sort of thing. So he could be a decent asset to have in your back pocket, like a 5th midfielder in OFPL, or like even a 5th or 6th mid, or like bench option or something like that in Fantrax, right? So the next part of his question, trading techniques and strategies to think about.
I think one of the biggest things is that like you have to be truly objective. if you want something, for example, like, you know, in our league, we kind of like, we do this, right? So if you want something, if you want a player, you have to be able to be willing to kind of give up that same value, right? And like, you know, looking at players, not just because you really like them, doesn't mean that they're all that good. They could be like pretty average, but not just because, like, you might just think of highly of them because you like them and they're in your team, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is that, and this is when you're trying to trade, right? So if you're wanting a player, so for example, I'm trying to convince Zuben to give me Cancelo, but I've told Zuben, like, everyone's on the table but Trent. So like, you know, Abba, Rashford, Saka, Reg, Pinnock, all these players are on the table. And these are really good players. And Cancelo isn't like, you know, your run-of-the-mill fullback. He is the second best fullback in the league in terms of points. That's primarily the reason why I want him. So.
And I mean, it helps that he doesn't really have competition for that spot, and he can play both left back and right back, so he's pretty much guaranteed minutes all the time. Because I remember Pep said last season, like, he has like an amazing, I think, recovery rate or something like that in terms of being able to be fit for the next match over and over and over, right? But you would expect some level of rotation during this Christmas congestion, no?
Yeah, of course, right? And that's just part of, even in a Pep team, that's a given almost, right? So
yeah. And I mean, how are you feeling? I know this is probably related to OFPL and stuff, but I mean, for fan tracks, I feel like it's easier to have assets from the same team as well, right? So I mean, I know a stacking strategy can sometimes work, like especially for Acham. It works for, you know, having all the Liverpool players and stuff, but it also isn't always a great thing because the way the points kind of work in fan tracks is pretty much like a trickle down effect, right? So let's say your top player gets 30, but the rest of them might get like 5s and 6s and stuff like that, right? And not saying that they're gonna get those 5 and 6s every match, right? Like, who am I gonna throw out randomly? Like maybe Thiago or something like that, right? Maybe you could potentially Ross, I'm sorry to bring up Thiago, but you know, maybe
you just love shitting on him. You could I could just like, I'm not gonna say anything, but because you called me out on it, Shanji just loves shitting on Thiago.
But I mean,
that's his bias.
but I mean, like, you could use him to get a player from a different team, right? It's not necessarily like the talisman of another team, but maybe 3 or 4 ladders or steps beneath that sort of thing. So like you're at least averaging, you know, just under 10 points, or like getting like 7 to 8 points on fan tracks from him per game, right? So kind of divesting your investment within a particular squad, right?
I guess so.
I mean, other techniques and strategies for draft. One thing I do quite enjoy in the OFPL game is having like a flex position. And I think I listened to the FBL Draft Boys podcast, and they heard the whole flex thing because I asked them a question about it, and it ended up becoming the word fling. So like, you know, you just have a short stint with this person, like, you know, as you do with a relationship fling sort of thing, but basically picking up and dropping players just based on fixtures alone, right? So having one spot or two spots within your entire roster that you're just playing the fixtures, right? You maybe look at like clean sheet odds or, you know, goal scoring odds or something like that, and that, you know, just pick up people to target, like, you know, clean sheet points. Not necessarily you're gonna play them every, you know, game week or whatnot, but you know, if there's a fixture like, you know, Norwich that's sandwiched between Man City and Liverpool, you kind of pick up just for that Norwich fixture and just drop him right after, sort of thing, right? So yeah, that's also a decent strategy to have for both OFPL and Fantrax, I find. Okay.
But yeah, thanks for your questions, FBL Draft Boys. I think we go on to the next question. We can go to Achim.
Yep.
Because it's a bit more, it's kind of similar to, I guess, all these questions. But he asked, how is he going to transform? So how, Howe, is he going to transform Newcastle?
Oh, I just got that. I was like, why did he spell it wrong?
Yeah.
we might use that for like the pod name, you know?
FPL, is Wilson going to be a good option now? Also FPL, Bowen versus ESR, Kane versus Son.
Russ, I know you don't play a lot of FPL, but I'm gonna try and take an honest crack at these questions. I mean, you can definitely pitch in with the Howe and Newcastle transformation, right? So, what do you think about that?
I mean, we kind of talked about it, but I think right now, like his best ability is to be able to get the goals, right, and to get the best out of his attacking players. They're probably gonna revert to a back four, because I don't know, maybe like it's
like a 4-4-2,
high intensity football. Yeah, like a 4-4-2, or exactly, right? So it will be a bit more high intensity than what Newcastle's been kind of used to playing for, but it'll be interesting on, like, you know, does Matt Ritchie then become a right winger? Sorry, not Lascelles. What's his name?
Jacob Murphy?
The Brazilian.
Oh, the Brazilian.
No, the Brazilian.
Who's the Brazilian? Oh, Joelinton.
Joelinton.
Yeah.
Joelinton and Callum Wilson up top, right? Or who else do they have like a striker? Does Ryan Fraser become the left winger now, right? All these things are going to kind of come up, right? So, you're going to like do a lot of trial and error in this scenario. And even in terms of that midfield duo, Shelvey and Sean, was it Sean Longstaff?
Yeah, well, at least some ball-playing midfielders, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
what Bournemouth we kind of saw from them. Is like they do like to play attractive football, and you know, Shelvey's probably better on the eyes, sort of thing, right?
So, but then like you're giving up a lot of defensive integrity that way, right? So you need to be really comfortable with Lascelles and whoever, and your fullbacks need to be super comfortable with like tracking back and like, you know, staying on their man, right? So it's gonna be super interesting. I don't think Matt Ritchie is gonna be then your right back. I think he will be like your right winger. So if he starts though, but I think like that's kind of this thing that I'm kind of looking forward to. I eventually feel like it's gonna start off as a 4-2-2, a 4-4-2 to eventually become a 4-3-3, and then, you know, we'll see if who kind of gets that number 9 spot, and like does Joelinton then play on the wing, or does he come off the bench?
Yeah, what's interesting about the whole Matt Ritchie possible OOP thing is that on FPL, I think he's registered as a defender, right? So if you're playing FPL Draft, that's probably even more enticing, and we know he takes set pieces and corners and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, his output, if managers were patient with him, his output could, you know, see a little bump, you know, an increase in points. So yeah, I mean, keep an eye on it. You never know with all these new managers coming in, how they're going to change up the squad selection, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, try and, you know, be quicker than other people sort of thing on the grabs, but also don't pick up a bunch of duds sort of thing. So, and I mean, the next question is about what do we expect from Callum Wilson, right? I think in his most successful season at Bournemouth, he had 14 goals and 9 assists. It was that crazy season that, you know, Fraser went off and he had like nearly the most key passes or second highest key passes one season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think in that season he had gotten 14 assists, right, and 7 goals. So yeah, I mean, we know how much of a beast Fraser can be, sort of thing. So I expect Callum Wilson to do well, man. So right now it's probably a buy low option, I want to say. But at the same time, this guy is known for picking up hamstring injuries. And we're going into a you know, again, Christmas congestion. So like a bunch of fixtures back to back. Is he really going to play all of those games 90 minutes? I highly doubt that. The next part of Achim's question, basically again FPL stuff, is Bowen versus ESR. So I think he's trying to consider stuff his budget. Achim, I'm gonna kill you for asking FPL questions, low-key, but you know what? I'm still gonna answer them. So, Ross, I mean, you can still comment from a footballing perspective, right? Bowen was on part of our pub quiz. I think he had the third most assists or something like that, right? The 6 assists.
Fantasy assists, yeah.
And he takes corners for West Ham. I believe he dominates them, but kind of shares them with Cresswell. And he's kind of been ticking along the last few game weeks, like chipping in with an attacking return almost every game week, like maybe over the past 5 or 6 game weeks, right? But now ESR is also in the goals, right? I think he's scored 3 in the last 4, if I'm not mistaken. And he did get his first international call up for England, and he did also get his first international goal as well. So I feel like with either one of those, you can't really go wrong. So Ross, I'm gonna make you come up, with the difficult answer. Who are you gonna pick between those two?
Jared Boyne.
Why?
Because West Ham have a much stronger goal threat. They're still able to score goals. Arsenal are only taking along with like 1-0s or 2-1s or whatever, right? Or 1-1s. West Ham is scoring 2-3 goals in the last few game weeks anyways. At least, and I feel like Bowen is going to be so if you can put they put 3 past Liverpool pretty easily as well. My money's on Jared Boyne.
Yeah, with Virgil van Dijk in the squad, right? Let's remind people. Virg is a big brick wall, so to get past him with ease is no easy task. And if you had to pick between Kane and Son, right? I mean, let me put a little context on this, right? I saw an interesting stat over the international break that there was a game that I think Kane got a hat-trick, the one before he got 4 goals. So he basically got 7 goals over 2 games for England, right? But I think that game that he got the hat-trick, apparently his accumulated XG in that match was higher than the XG accumulated so far for the season in the English Premier League, which is crazy, right?
My money's on Son.
But the thing is that was during Nuno's time. We saw Conte's comments about wanting him to play basically between the posts, become that lethal striker that Conte really rates him highly as. But at the same time, playing for Spurs is completely different to playing for England. Like, your fullbacks are Emerson Royal and Reguilon versus Reece James or Chilwell or Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like, you take your pick. Like, it's ridiculous, right? The amount of service that he can get from an England squad. So I think I would also kind of lean Son, because Son has the corners, right? So he has like an extra route to attacking returns, that sort of thing. And the way I've seen kind of how Spurs have set up recently is that I feel like Kane still naturally drops into that number 10 sort of spot and lets Lucas Moura and Heung-min Son run off of him, sort of thing, right? Like on counters, I feel like I see Son tending to lead the line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got your answer there. We both pick Son. All right. Thanks, Achim, for your question. Try to make it fan tracks. You're winning the league. You might as well.
He's lost 2 in a row, bro.
Oh, the comeback is on. Wait, who did he lose to so far?
So he's lost to me.
Of course.
And I think he's lost to Andreas.
Of course. Did you flex with the champion is here sort of thing,
Nah, I was like, Liverpool lost that game week. So I was like, man, it was a pretty bad game week. So in that sense.
Actually, I've got a question for you. Would you rather win your game week or your team win if you had to pick one?
Team win. 100%.
Okay.
Not even a question, bro.
Okay.
You ask this every season or every once in a while. It's always team, bro.
Maybe I should make it a bit more difficult. If you had to win the championship in your fan tracks, like basically playoff final, would you take that or Liverpool win?
In that scenario, because I'll phrase it even better. Even then I might pick Fantrax. But here's what I'm thinking. It's the last game of the game week, right? Your opponent has Trent Alexander-Arnold, and if Trent Alexander-Arnold gets an assist or goal, he wins. But in this scenario, you're the Liverpool fan here, right? And and with that goal or assist, Liverpool also win. Would you take that goal or assist from Trent knowing that you lose in Fantrax, or would you try to win in Fantrax?
I think I'd rather my team win, because I've already won a playoff final that doesn't count, but that's neither here nor there.
There you go.
All right. Thanks again, Achim, for your question. But that last question was mine, made up on the spot. So let's go on to our last question.
The last question is from no one, haha, at Chirag Verma. Norwich assets, Aston Villa assets, Newcastle assets, Spurs assets. Please discuss possible potential gems after the managerial changes in all the above teams.
Right. So, we kind of talked about Newcastle, so I don't know if we need to talk about them again. like for a third time. So Spurs, I mean, quickly, just based on what I've been hearing from like other podcasts and, you know, just tidbits of information coming through, I feel like Reguilon is a asset you kind of want to pick up because as like one of the attacking wingbacks, he picks up like a very high average position on the field, like almost near the strikers sort of thing. I still think like midfield is kind of up for debate because Conte is still like figuring stuff out, right? And
it's only been one game so far, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Ben Davies could be a possible gem. I think he got like 14 or 15 points in that game versus Everton. I mean, that's if he retains his spot, right? So other than that, like it's hard to say. Like, who knows if Emerson Royal even keeps his spot because Doherty came on for like that small stint and got like 4.25 points, right? In what was it, like 18 minutes or 15 minutes, something really, really short like that. It's hard to say. And I mean, even harder to say for Norwich and Aston Villa as well. Who knows what Dean Smith's gonna do with that team, right? Does Billy Gilmore get a shout again, sort of thing? Like,
is Cantwell now like your Jack Grealish equivalent, right? For Aston Villa, I'm thinking Gerrard tends to set up a more stronger defensive team before he looks at his attack. Is Bertrand Traore back in the mix now once he kind of comes back from injury? It seems like he's only got like a solid red flag on Fantrack, so he might be back soon. That means like players like El Ghazi might not necessarily get the nod because they're not as defensively sound as their kind of counterparts, right? Does the midfield shuffle also happen with like, I don't know, Jacob Ramsey coming in or whoever, or Samson, I think is the other guy, right?
Yeah, Sanson. Yeah.
Sanson.
But even like the change of shape, right? Because, you know, Dean Smith kind of rolled out that back five with the wing back. So does the value of Matty Cash and Matt Target also change, right? Kind of drop down. I mean, what if Matty Target gets back on corners or dominates the corners again, right? Takes them away from Buendia sort of stuff. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Like, will he play both strikers or will he rotate Danny Ings and Watkins? I would think Watkins starts over Ings, right? Because again, we talk about Christmas congestion. Danny Ings doesn't last. Like, his hamstrings are most likely going to give away if he plays too much football.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I feel like if I were to pick one Aston Villa asset that I might be kind of putting some money on, it would probably be Bertrand Traore. I think if he's fully fit, he is way more defensively sound than any of their attacking options. So right now, that's what you want to stop first, right? You want to stop the goals. So
yeah, and I mean, based on the last game Dean Smith was in charge for, the one versus Southampton, Leon Bailey barely did any defensive work to help Matty Cash, man, on that left-hand side, I want to say. Like, Kyle Walker-Peters, I think he had the highest average positioning for Southampton that match. Like, he was just making life so difficult for Matty Cash. So if you're saying that Gerrard is going to be like defensive minded sort of thing, maybe the likes of Leon Bailey might start getting benched more often than starting, right? Sort of thing. So yeah, I know you suggested a gem, but I'm gonna, you know, suggest like a bit of warnings about certain assets sort of thing, just to, you know, play the little angel devil sort of situation. So I mean, Aston Villa, do you want to I get Norwich, you want to mention like a gem possibly?
Cantwell, I don't know. I feel like Cantwell would be the closest to your Jack Grealish replacement, considering he's back from injury and whatever personal concerns are happening in his life are also kind of like getting better. But I think once he is in the matchday squad, I think Dean Smith can kind of get him close to what we saw from Jack Grealish.
I mean, I don't...
Not exactly, but it's close.
Yeah, I don't like to usually suggest Norwich players, but I think Billy Gilmore could come back into the fold, right? He's got too much talent to ignore. So I don't know if him and Farke just kind of fell out, so keep an eye on him. I mean, we talked about Newcastle, like Ryan Fraser possibly playing OOP sort of thing. And for Spurs, again, just monitor the fullbacks that are being rotated over there. All right. I think that's it for the questions. Ross, shall we take a quick halftime pint and then get back into the second half?
Sounds good.
All right. See you in a bit. And we are back. Okay, so let's quickly run through this because Ras got to go teach a bunch of kids, man. So we're going to run through FA/waiver picks we want to suggest. So these players are basically under 50% owned and, possible gems to kind of do your weekly pickup sort of thing. So Ras, kick us off. Leicester versus Chelsea, first game.
Yeah, Animal Lookman, he's 33% owned. He isn't regularly starting, but now slowly getting back into the mix again, right? He started off pretty strong Fantrax wise, had a bit of a falling out where he wouldn't even kind of come on a Europa game either, and now he's back and playing for Rodgers. I don't know, Rodgers does this sometimes, right? He's weird like that, but Animal Lookman 33%.
Yeah, so it was hard to suggest Chelsea assets. So again, with caution, you might just need to look at the lineup, and because there's so many games, these players might get opportunities here and there. But Ross Barkley, 24% owned. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, 18% owned. We know this season has been really tough for some managers to get proper midfield options, like dependable ones that are nailed. So if you've got a spot to kind of rotate in your roster, then maybe look at these guys and just be quick on the pick. All right, next game, Aston Villa versus Brighton.
Yeah, the two assets I'm going to suggest are possibly El Ghazi, 37% owned, and Bertrand, 39% owned. Huge asterisks on both of them, because even El Ghazi started last game and didn't do that much. Got the yellow card as well. So, word of caution, because I'm also not, like I said before, this might be a player that might see the bench more often because of, not the ability to kind of tracking back, right? And which is why I would kind of highlight Bertrand Traore more, because Bertrand Traore is, from what I've seen, very defensively sound, tracks back, retains possession, doesn't kind of give it away cheaply that often, and because of that might see more game time, especially if he's back fit. He's 39% owned.
And at Brighton, I'm going to suggest Veltman, 34% owned. I know Tariq Lamptey is back and getting minutes and stuff like that, but I don't think he can play consecutive games, during that, again, Christmas congestion of fixtures. So I feel like Veltman, because of his flexibility in terms of being able to play in both wing back and as one of the right or left centre backs, he could get game time and he's good on the ghosties. So yeah, 34% owned Veltman. Go pick him up. Next game, Burnley versus Crystal Palace.
I'm surprised Charlie Taylor is less than 50% owned, man, but he's only 36%. He has been killing it in terms of ghost points.
Yeah, very, very dependable guy, man. He loves to cross the ball into the box for Chris Wood, and, Chris Wood has some goals to catch up on. So at Crystal Palace, few players, Michael Olise, 44% owned, Guaita, 43% owned, and MacArthur, 42% owned. With MacArthur, I'd probably be a bit more cautious just because they've got so many midfield options coming back into the fray. But yeah, Olise, once he starts games, man, I think this guy is gonna be an absolute machine in terms of ghost points. And we saw he can get attacking returns off the bench. Vieira has tightened up things defensively, and I know I could have suggested other defenders, but I feel like Guaita could just get more ghosties with the saves, etc. And he's a decent goalkeeper, man. People also consider him on FPL as a decent option to Sanchez, who got sent off in the last game. But yeah, next game, Newcastle versus Brentford.
Matt Ritchie, 45%. I should probably also then give a shout out to Ryan Fraser, because we talked about him a lot. I'm pretty sure he's also less than 50% owned as well. Let me just kind of confirm that. When we kind of talked about it, I was like, oh yes, Matt Ritchie, Ryan Fraser is also a player that we should be looking out for.
I can pull it up. Just give me one sec.
He is 10% owned.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So mostly just because, reuniting with his old manager, why wouldn't you pick out a manager why wouldn't you pick out a player that's gotten 14 assists for you and 7 goals for you in one season?
Yeah, and for Brentford, again, this is just be cautious sort of situation, but Matthias Jensen, 33% owned. I know he got COVID at the start of the international break, but here's hoping that he was able to recover and, be able to start with the team again. The last match saw him get 7 key passes, Ross, which I believe was the highest for the game week. So he's on set pieces, on corners, that sort of thing. Good for the ghost points. Got 20 points for his Fantrax points. So I think he's a great midfield option to have right now, and especially if he's gonna get a run of starts. All right, next game, Norwich versus Southampton.
Yeah, so the two assets that I have is Milo Rashica, 38%, and Norman, 47%. I wouldn't suggest Billy Gilmore just because we don't know if he's starting, but Milo Rashica and Norman have been putting up decent points recently. So that's the reason why they're a bit more higher on my list at the moment. But if I think Billy Gilmore starts, I think he is he's a very my type of midfielder. Will get you a lot of like interceptions and tackles and those sort of points, and those rack up sometimes to like about 7-8 points a game. So
sounds like Thiago, bro.
Screw you.
All right, so for Southampton, I'm going to suggest a few defensive options like Bertrand, 27% owned, Kyle Walker-Peters, 22% owned. I mean, they're playing Norwich, right? So Norwich isn't really like a proper goal-scoring team, and it's going to be Dean Smith's first game. So I don't think they're going to have things figured out sort of thing, but I do believe that they will concede goals, so I will suggest Broja, 19% owned. That's if he starts, right? So you're just going to have to wait for the lineups and maybe kind of pick him up if you can. And a little bit of a cheeky suggestion is Oriol Romeu, 14% owned. Now, he's probably not going to get you 10 to 11 points or something like that, but he's been ticking along with like 6 to 8 points like every game week, just ghosties, right? Doing them central defensive midfield things that Ross loves. But yeah, let's move on to the next game, Watford versus Manchester United.
Cucho, 7% owned. I don't know if I really want to suggest defensive assets or midfield assets. Cucho is a forward, but Cucho also is a forward, so I don't know if he's going to start or not. So there's not that many, there's very slim pickings on players who might be kind of fruitful. So that's the only one that I can really come up with.
And Manchester United, it's hard to really suggest an asset. There's not really a lot of good ones available unless you want to maybe bank on Matic or McTominay, but who knows what Ole's going to do, man. Anyway, so next game, Wolves versus West Ham.
Kilman, 17%, and Ait Nouri, 31%. Kilman did get the goal a couple of games ago, or last game, and that might have kind of like inflated his points a bit, but it seems like he is starting regularly now. Ait Nouri too, starting over Marçal, has a talisman in Jimenez, so something to kind of actually aim for in the middle, right? So, and I think got an assist recently as well. So
he takes corners, bro.
He takes corners. So there you go. Both of them are owned considerably under 50%. So I think they're both good options. Yes, they are defenders in a not so good Wolves defense, but we're mostly kind of getting them for their goal potential or their assist potential.
And that's for like fixtures moving forward, because the team they're facing is West Ham, who I'm going to suggest Johnson, 45% owned, and Fabianski, 40% owned. Thing is, Johnson displays Soufal, so it's a hard one to say if Soufal kind of takes his spot back. But I mean, man, Johnson's been performing like a machine, and he did the Bangra. Like, how can you not start a guy that does the Bangra as his celebration, bro?
Yeah, man.
All right, next game, and probably the big one for Saturday, Liverpool versus Arsenal.
Yeah, there aren't that many assets. The only one that I can really think of is Ox. He's going up against his old club. He will be a lot more fresher than his teammates because he didn't go away on international break. And because Liverpool have a bit of an injury concern, there is that, like, he will probably start. He is 16% owned. So.
And at Arsenal, with a grain of salt, I'm going to suggest this player, Tavares, 23% owned. Now, Kieran Tierney is fit again, but how long will that last, right? Again, with all these fixtures coming up, I feel like Tavares will get some minutes here and there, and who knows, he could get played out of position or something like that. Maybe he changes the formation, right? Where I've seen Tierney play as the left centre-back, right? And Andy Robertson plays as the left wing-back for Scotland, something like that, right? So who knows if Tavares gets minutes just based on that. And I mean, ITES-wise, Tavares looks amazing on the ball, like fearless. He loves to go forward as well. So 23% owned. I mean, maybe not for the Liverpool game, but moving forward, definitely one to consider.
Tavares, I remember when they first signed, every Arsenal fan was, "Who is this kid?" And
And now they're like, oh, this kid. Yeah, I love this kid.
yeah.
All right, next game on Sunday, the first one, Manchester City versus Everton. Ross, we don't really have anyone from these teams.
I don't really have anyone, like, unless you can bank on like Zinchenko starting or like Ake starting. I don't know. So other than that, like, I don't have anyone, and they're pretty lowly owned. So and that's like, if the game's at 9 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. you have to be up and look at the lineups and pick them up. So I wouldn't pick them up before.
Yeah, depends on the time zone you live for sure.
Yeah.
But the only asset that comes to mind for me from Everton, based on the ones that are fit at least, is Anthony Gordon, 3% owned. And I don't know, I didn't list him in our notes, but the reason I didn't is because they're playing Manchester City, who is like one of the best defensive teams in the league. So I don't want to waste people's time with that, So let's move on to the next and final game, Tottenham versus Leeds.
Yeah, the only asset I have is Romero. Christian Romero? That's his full name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
They're going up against a not so great Leeds offense and I think Romero played with, no, Romero didn't play with Conte, but he played in a league with Conte.
I mean, Atalanta's kit looks like Inter Milan, so it works,
So it works, right? So there you go. But I don't know. I feel like defensive assets for Tottenham might be kind of on the rise because that's the first thing that he'll want to obviously kind of show up. So Christian Romero, 48% owned.
And you've got one more, Matt Doherty at 28% owned.
Shoot. I didn't scroll down. Yes, I do have one more. But like, that's like a big asterisk considering that he came on for Reg.
On the left side. That was the
instead
one
of his
interesting thing, right? Yeah. And like we mentioned before, he got 4.25 points in 18 minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know if he starts or not, but like he's also going to be playing out of position in the sense that he's playing on the other opposite flank. He's primarily a right wing back, a right back, but it seems like they're trusting Ben Davies, or Conte is trusting Ben Davies and Emerson Royale there or whatever. But even I thought Ben Davies was the left back, so like, what is this switcheroo that's happening that we want to figure out? So.
Switcheroo with Deliveroo. Yo, bro, okay, for Leeds, I honestly don't know who to suggest. And like, I've been hearing on a lot of podcasts that apparently they've been tightening up defensively and maybe like their XGA or something like that has probably gotten better over the last 4 games. But I don't want to suggest anyone just because like, every time I think someone's fit, Bielsa's like, we'll have to monitor and, manage the situation. We'll see how it develops over time or whatever. He's never like crystal clear, since this whole Spygate shit. But
yeah,
if you have to suggest someone, maybe it would be Diego Llorente, right? 10% owned. He's probably one of their more dependable defensive options. And the reason I suggest that is because Spurs aren't free-flowing, attacking, scoring football at the moment, right? Yeah, sure, Harry Kane got 7 goals in 2 games for England, but like we said, Spurs ain't England, bro. But yeah, Ross, I think you have like maybe a couple minutes. I just want to pick your brain about a couple of trades, if that's okay.
Sure. Let's do that.
Okay, so a couple of these trades went through in some of the leagues that I'm in. And this is like the public leagues, like the DPL Community League and the International Genie League, right? So Alan St. Maximin and Jimenez for Bruno and Bamford. How do you feel about that?
Which
side you taking? Which side
Bruno
you
and
taking?
Bamford.
Yeah, even though Bamford ain't fit and hasn't been playing and Sunday League Leeds team, like
Bruno is still easily the top chance creator in the Premier League. Right? I feel like Bruno and like, short starter. Jimenez is benched here and there. ASM won't be benched obviously, but like, it's still one of those things with a new manager. Obviously, he won't be. But, like, Bamford, once he gets fit, hopefully he can, like, come back and just play to his kind of strengths that he did last season. But any trade that Bruno is on, regardless if it's, like, it is an Ole Manchester United team, but my money is still on Bruno.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about not playing this game with too much emotion, right? Because in my heart tells me like go for ASM and Jimenez, right? We talk about Howe. Sorry, I call him a Ho. Damn, he ain't no Ho, bro. But Eddie Howe, improving Newcastle from an attacking perspective. Maybe ASM gets attacking returns to go with his 20 dribbles per game or something like that. So that's why I was kind of leaning more ASM Jimenez. But you make a very good point. Bruno leading key passes in the league so far, so it's hard to kind of look past that. Okay, the next trade though. AWB and Sterling for Trincao. This to me was real sus, bro.
Yeah, that looks real sus. I don't know. Like, Trincao is... I guess people are selling short their, like, AWB and Sterling. Okay, I guess maybe Sterling's not even going to stay in January or whatever, right? I guess that's kind of what you're banking on. And that's kind of what the risk is. And you're getting Trincao, who seems to be a regular starter for Wolves and seems to be ticking along in terms of points. AWB has also not been playing well. He's definitely not up to the standards that Manchester United fans put him as he's better than Trent. But Trincao, and that's the only way it kind of makes sense. But I feel like AWB will definitely bounce back. And especially when Varane is back too. So
yeah, that was a very weird trade for me. I don't know. You know that collusion gif from the draft league or whatever?
Yeah.
I really want to drop that in the chat. Yeah.
Collusion.
All right. So that's everything we had planned to talk about. Ross, I know you have to run off, bro. Make sure you take care of that hand, right? Do you have any final things to say? Final thoughts?
Happy to that the Premier League's back. So
yeah,
I feel like that's always what we say after the international
yeah,
break,
exactly.
so.
I mean, Ryan doesn't agree, right? Ryan was like, I love international break. Da, 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 da. See, this is why we didn't bring him to record today, Yeah, he had something negative to say.
Exactly. And the next one isn't till March?
Yeah, exactly, bro. And like when it does happen in March, it's like our birthdays, right? So even more reason to celebrate. So
Exactly. It's nice.
All right.
So
Russ, I'll catch you on the next episode, bro.
Peace.